George Coggan, you are found guilty as charged of riot. It is the order of this court that you shall be transported beyond the seas for a term of 14 years. Take the prisoner to the cells.
I meant no harm. I killed nobody. Stole nought. What did I do wrong? Me, George Coggan, an honest Yorkshire weaver. It's criminals that gets transported. Sent away to Australia and never come back. Not from Australia, not ever. What if I did find my way back? If ever I found my way back, my children, they'd all be grown up. If they live. Without their father to earn their bread and no mother to care for them. My poor wife died bearing our youngest. At least she was spared the shame of seeing her young ones taken to the workhouse. Oh, Betsy. And all for wanting things to change.
Change? I'll tell you about change. It's 1843 now, and Queen Victoria's been on the throne these full 6 years. Change? It's everywhere. I'm Abraham Walker, and I own this mill. I and others too, and I've made them with the sweat of me forehead. In the 55 years of my life, I've seen change, the like of which no one would believe.
There's been too much change. Too fast. We had to speak out against it. We had the right to be heard, didn't we? But it's only them that has money or land that'll listen to.
He and his mates had to go pulling plugs out of engine boilers and go rioting and making demands of their betters. Oh, we can't allow that. We can't let our industries be threatened. We had to make an example of the ringleaders. Send them far away. Out of sight, out of mind. And good riddance.
George and Abraham did live at a time of enormous change. They called it a revolution of change. Now we call it the Industrial Revolution.
Can you just see, look at the landscape in front of you and just have a look at the different
Perhaps we can peel away these changes and imagine how we used to live when George and Abraham were alive 150 years ago.
Can anyone see one that's really modern, really recent? Yeah, go on then, Emanuele.
That octagon one right over there.
That octagon, right through the middle there, between the mills. See it? Okay. When do you think that went up? How long ago? Go on.
About 20 years.
Probably only about 20 years old. Very recent one. Okay, somebody tell me about an older building. Something that went up a longer time ago. Catherine?
The big mill over there.
The big mill. How do you know it's a mill?
Because it's got a big chimney.
Those big chimneys out of the top. Okay. What can you see in the landscape that would have been built about the same time as the mill? Yes, go on.
The canal.
Canal. Where's the canal? See if you can point it out to me.
Running down the right-hand side of the mill.
Right, great, well done. So what would they have needed the canal and the railway for? Yes?
They would have used the canal for washing the wool.
For actually washing the wool? I think possibly transporting it. Okay, let's have a look at the housing.
These children are looking at a typical industrial landscape in Yorkshire, where the wool weaving trade has thrived for many centuries. When the Industrial Revolution happened, many working men like George hated the idea of great mills and factories and demanded a charter or list of their rights. There were riots, and some like George were punished by being sent to Australia. But the Industrial Revolution proved unstoppable, creating many of the towns and cities we live in today. Let's see what this view would look like if we were to travel back in time. First, the very modern buildings would disappear. Then the buildings that were constructed when your grandparents were young, and even longer ago when there were no railways or canals, to when the first mills were built, and finally, as George would have grown up with, countryside with only a few hamlets on the hilltops. If you look carefully, can you imagine the development of the town you live in? I wonder how far back in time you can travel. To help our friends imagine how we used to live, they've come to this museum in Golker in Yorkshire where time stands still. Here they can experience the kind of life that George and his children would have led, a simple weaver's cottage.
Right, so we're right at the top of the cottage now. What are all these up here? These big wooden things, Ross?
The big mechanical loom.
Looms, brilliant. So who would use these looms? What sort of people? What are they called? Manueli?
Victorian.
Yeah, they lived in the Victorian times, but what's the trade called? Azad?
Weaving people.
Weavers, that's right, OK. So can anyone tell me how these machines work? Anybody? Ruth?
You fed a thread through the top strings and he makes a pattern.
Right.
To make a cloth.
And the threads mix in together to make a firm cloth. Well done. Good.
So these are the looms. But before you can weave, you've got to have yarn, and that comes from wool.
Now this has already been washed. All the bits have been taken out of it. So if you get your little bit of wool and gently, it's called teasing, is it? If we gently open all the fibres, spread it out, and then we're ready for carding. Can you see how it's opening out? These are the carders, and we're going to put the wool which we've teased onto one half of the carder. Does anybody know what we're doing when we're carding?
And the fibres straight.
That's right, we can't do any spinning until we've got all the fibres straight and running in a straight line. The other half goes on the top, and we'll pull it across. Pull it up, like that. Now you can see all your fibres are starting to get to be straightened, can't you? How do you think we get the wool off now?
Join them both together and then scrape them up and down.
That's right, we put the carders together, rub them gently together, up and down, and the wool comes out at the bottom, and that's called a rolag, which is now ready for spinning.
Although these children live in Yorkshire, where wool was a way of life, they've never tried spinning before. But weaving was only one part of the Industrial Revolution. There was also iron and steel making, coal mining, all kinds of manufacturing.
Pull it to make it long and spin it to make it strong. That's what we said, isn't it? It's just the twisting of the fibres that makes it into a strong yarn.
It's surprising how quickly things changed. This way of life can now only be found in museums.
Right, so what you do is put them both together, hold them together with your finger and your thumb, and twist your spindle. Now, can you see how it's twisted both lots together?
Yeah.
Right. Now you keep on pulling it very gently and you keep on spinning it. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what you've got to do. You want to have a feel and see how strong it is? It's quite strong, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to have a feel? So from that
In museums like this, you experience not only working life, but everyday life, even cooking your lunch as they would have done 150 years ago.
Make our own scones and also make our own butter. Pour the cream in.
Perhaps you can find a museum that shows what your local industrial life was like.
It's distracting.
I think we're ready for putting the milk in now, don't you? Mixing them together. That's right.
But this simple way of life was to change. Huge mills were built that needed thousands of hands to attend them. Hands like George Coggins, who was used to running his own life, not being ordered about by foremen and mill owners.